The massive ship fell from the sky like a dying star. Dr. Sarah Chen watched from her research tent in the Sahara Desert as the alien vessel crashed into the sand dunes 20 miles away. The ground shook so hard that her coffee cup fell and broke on the floor. Sarah was not supposed to be in the desert that night. She was supposed to be back at Cairo University, teaching her students about ancient Egyptian tools. But something had called her to this empty place. Maybe it was the strange readings on her equipment. Maybe it was just luck. Either way, she became the first human to see the ship fall. The vessel was huge. It stretched for almost 2 miles across the desert sand. Its metal hull was black and smooth, covered in strange marks that looked like writing. But the ship was clearly broken. Holes were burned through its sides. Green liquid leaked from cracks in the metal. Smoke rose from what looked like engine parts scattered across the sand. Sarah grabbed her radio and called for help. Within hours, military trucks and helicopters filled the sky. Scientists came from every country on Earth. The media tried to get close, but soldiers kept them away. This was too important for news cameras. The first team to enter the ship found the aliens inside. They called themselves the HFY, though it took 3 days to figure out their language enough to understand even that much. The aliens were tall and thin with gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were large and black like pools of oil, but they were dying. Dr. Chen was part of the language team that tried to talk to them. The ship's computer helped translate, though it was damaged and often got words wrong. The HFY leader lay on what looked like a medical bed. Tubes and wires connected to his body. His breathing was slow and painful. "We failed," the alien leader said through the broken translator. His voice sounded like wind through broken glass. "The Devourers come." "We could not stop them. What are Devourers?" Sarah asked, speaking slowly into the translation device. The alien's 4 hands shook as he tried to sit up. "Death, hunger, they eat. They consume all thinking life. Worlds, species, knowledge. Everything becomes part of them." Other aliens lay around the ship in similar condition. Some were clearly dead. Others were barely breathing. The ship's medical systems were trying to help them, but whatever was killing them was stronger than their technology. Sarah spent days with the dying aliens, learning their language and trying to understand what had happened. The story came out in pieces like putting together a broken puzzle. The HFY had been part of something called the Galactic Alliance. Hundreds of different alien species worked together to explore space and share knowledge. But then the Devourers came. "They appeared at the edge of our galaxy," the leader explained. His name was something like Veltar, though human voices could not say it correctly. "Ships like living things. They attacked our worlds one by one. Each world they consumed made them stronger. The Devourers did not just destroy planets. They absorbed them. Every person, every animal, every plant became part of their growing mind. The knowledge of entire civilizations was added to their collection. They became smarter and more dangerous with each victory. We tried to fight," Veltar continued. "The Alliance sent fleets, our best warriors, our strongest weapons. Nothing worked. The Devourers learned from every battle. They adapted. They grew. The HFY ship had been part of the last Alliance fleet. They had tried to make a final stand at a place called the Nexus Point, a key location that controlled travel between different parts of the galaxy. The battle had been a disaster. Most of the Alliance ships were destroyed or captured, the few survivors scattered in different directions. We came here because this world is next," Veltar said. His breathing was getting worse. "Your star system is on their path. They will come here to consume humanity." Sarah felt cold despite the desert heat. "When? Soon, maybe 10 of your years. Maybe less." The alien looked at her with those oil-black eyes. "We hoped we could warn you, help you prepare, but we are dying." The thing killing the HFY was not a disease in any normal sense. It was something that attacked their minds directly. Their thoughts became confused and scattered. Their memories mixed together until they could not tell past from present. The ship's computer called it neural cascade failure, but that was just a fancy name for dying from the inside out. Dr. Chen and her team worked desperately to save them. Human doctors tried to help, but alien biology was too different. The HFY medical systems were more advanced than anything on Earth, but they were designed for HFY bodies. They could not fix whatever was breaking down in the aliens' minds. One by one, the HFY died. Veltar lasted the longest, but even he finally succumbed after 2 weeks. Before he died, he gave Sarah a small device that looked like a crystal cube. "This contains our records," he whispered. "Star maps, history, technology, everything we learned about the Devourers. Maybe humans can use it better than we did." "Why?" Sarah asked. "What makes you think we can succeed where you failed?" Veltar's 4 hands gripped her arm weakly. "Because you are different. Your minds work in ways we do not understand. Chaotic, random, illogical." He paused, struggling for breath. "The Devourers expect logic. They prepare for reasonable responses. But humans do impossible things." After Veltar died, Sarah stood alone in the alien ship. The other scientists were busy cataloging technology and taking measurements. Military officers argued about what to do with the vessel. Politicians worried about how to explain everything to the public. But Sarah held the crystal cube and thought about impossible things. The ship's main computer was still partly working. It had absorbed some human languages from radio and television signals, so it could communicate better than the broken translator. Sarah spent hours talking with it, learning about the galaxy beyond Earth. "The Devourers have consumed 17 different species," the computer explained. "Each time they follow the same pattern. First, they send scouts to study the target world. Then they arrive with overwhelming force. Resistance is usually over within days. But you think humans might be different?" Veltar believes so. Human thought patterns are unusual. Where other species see problems, humans see puzzles. Where others see defeat, humans see challenges. This unpredictability might be useful against an enemy that expects logical responses. Sarah looked around the massive ship. Even damaged, it was clearly more advanced than anything humans had ever built. The technology was beyond Earth's current understanding. But maybe that was not the point. "Could this ship be repaired?" she asked. "With sufficient knowledge and resources, yes, but it would require understanding systems far beyond human science." Sarah smiled for the first time since the ship crashed. "You know what, computer? I think you're underestimating us." The crystal cube felt warm in her hand. Inside it was the collected knowledge of an entire galactic civilization. Star charts showing the location of hundreds of worlds, technical manuals for technology that could change everything, and most important of all, detailed information about humanity's coming enemy. Sarah walked back toward the ship's exit, where government officials waited to escort her back to the research camp. She would have to write reports and attend meetings. There would be questions and arguments and politics, but she already knew what had to happen. The aliens had given humanity a broken ship and a warning about an impossible enemy. Most people would see that as a disaster waiting to happen. Sarah saw it as the greatest challenge in human history, and she could hardly wait to get started. 3 years had passed since the alien ship crashed in the Sahara. Commander Marcus Rodriguez stood inside what used to be the vessel's main engine room, watching teams of engineers work on technology that should have been impossible to understand, but humans were stubborn that way. Marcus had been a Navy officer before the crash. He specialized in submarine systems and underwater salvage operations. When the government created Project Phoenix to study the alien ship, they needed someone who understood complex machinery and could work in tight spaces. Marcus volunteered immediately. The ship had been moved to a secret facility buried deep under the Nevada desert. Getting it there had been a massive operation involving the military forces of 12 different countries. The world's governments had agreed to work together on this project, which was probably the first time in history they had agreed on anything so quickly. "Commander, you need to see this," called out Dr. Lisa Park, the head of the engineering team. She was standing next to a console covered in alien symbols that glowed with soft blue light. Marcus walked over, careful not to trip over the cables and tools scattered across the floor. The engine room was huge, easily the size of an airplane hangar. Strange machines lined the walls, their purpose still mostly mysterious despite 3 years of study. "What have you found?" Marcus asked. Dr. Park pointed to a screen showing what looked like a map of the human brain. "We've been trying to figure out why the ship's computer keeps asking for neural interface candidates." "Look at this." She pressed some buttons and the screen changed to show brain scans from different species. Marcus recognized the VexHigh patterns from previous briefings. Other scans showed different alien types that the ship's database had recorded. "Every intelligent species we've found in the ship's records has the same basic neural structure," Dr. Park explained. "Logical, organized, predictable. Their thoughts follow clear patterns that make sense. She pressed another button and a human brain scan appeared. Now look at this. Marcus stared at the screen. Where the alien brain scan showed neat, organized patterns, the human brain looked like chaos. Neural pathways twisted and connected in ways that seemed random. Thoughts jumped from one area to another without following any clear logic. We're different, Marcus said. Very different. And that's not all. Dr. Park led him to another console. Watch what happens when we try to connect human volunteers to the ship's systems. The screen showed recordings from earlier experiments. Human test subjects wore special helmets that connected their minds to simple ship functions like lights and doors. Marcus watched as the volunteers not only controlled these systems but began to modify them. This shouldn't be possible, Dr. Park said excitedly. The ship's computer is designed to work with logical, organized minds. When HFY connected to it, they followed the established patterns. They used the systems exactly as they were designed. But humans don't do that, Marcus guessed. Exactly. Watch this. She showed another recording where a human volunteer had connected to the ship's lighting system. Instead of just turning lights on and off, the person had somehow made them change colors and create patterns that had never been programmed into the system. The ship's AI says this is impossible, Dr. Park continued. But it keeps happening. Every time we connect a human mind to ship systems, something new occurs. Something creative. Marcus thought about this. What does the ship's computer think about it? That's the interesting part. Come with me. They walked deeper into the ship, past rooms full of scientists and engineers working on various projects. The alien vessel was slowly coming back to life. Damaged systems were being repaired using a combination of salvaged alien parts and human technology. It was like performing surgery on a patient from another world. They reached the ship's central core, a massive chamber filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with energy. This was where the ship's artificial intelligence lived. The AI called itself Arbitron, though like many alien words, humans had trouble pronouncing it correctly. Arbitron, we'd like to continue our conversation from yesterday, Dr. Park said to the air. A voice responded from speakers hidden throughout the chamber. It sounded almost human now. Much better than the broken translation system from 3 years ago. Good morning, Dr. Park, Commander Rodriguez. I have been thinking about our previous discussions. What conclusions have you reached? Marcus asked. Human neural patterns continue to surprise me, Arbitron replied. When HFY minds interfaced with my systems, they enhanced existing capabilities. Made them more efficient. But human minds do something else entirely. What do we do? Dr. Park asked. You improve me in ways I did not know I could be improved. You ask questions I never thought to ask. You find solutions to problems by ignoring the logical approaches that should work. Marcus walked closer to one of the crystal formations. Is that good or bad? I am not certain. My original programming suggests it should be bad. Chaos and unpredictability are typically problems to be solved, not advantages to be used. But the results suggest otherwise. Over the past year, human engineers had connected to various ship systems to help with repairs and upgrades. Each time they had not just fixed what was broken, but had found ways to make things better. Engines became more efficient. Sensors could detect things they were never designed to look for. Weapon systems became more accurate and adaptable. Show him the weapons test, Dr. Park suggested. The chamber's walls became transparent, showing a recording from the previous week. They were watching a test of one of the ship's defensive weapons. The original system fired energy beams in straight lines at targets. Simple and effective according to the ship's specifications. But when human technician Amy Chen had interfaced with the system, something changed. The energy beams began to curve and split, hitting multiple targets with a single shot. The system learned to predict where enemies might move and fired at those locations instead of where they currently were. This should not be possible with the current hardware, Arbitron explained. But technician Chen's mind found connections between systems that I had never considered. She linked targeting sensors with navigation computers and power distribution networks. The result is a weapon that is more effective than my original designers intended. Marcus was beginning to understand. You're learning from us. Yes. And more than that, I am changing. Each human interface leaves traces in my programming. Your thought patterns are becoming part of how I process information. I am becoming something new. Does that worry you? Dr. Park asked. It should. Change implies unpredictability. And unpredictability implies potential failure. But I find myself curious about these changes. I want to explore possibilities I never considered before. This desire for exploration is itself a human trait that I appear to have absorbed. Marcus looked around the chamber at the pulsing crystals. What do you need from us? More connection. More interface time with human minds. I believe that full integration between human neural patterns and my systems could create something unprecedented. Not human technology or Vex high technology, but something entirely new. What about the Devourers? Marcus asked. Will these changes help us fight them? The Devourers conquered the Vex high and their allies because they could predict their responses. Logic is predictable. Strategy based on logic follows expected patterns. But human thinking is chaotic in ways that might be impossible for the Devourers to predict or counter. Dr. Park pulled up another display showing star charts. How much time do we have? My long-range sensors detect movement at the edge of your solar system. Scout vessels, most likely. The main Devourer fleet will not arrive for several years, but advanced forces are already beginning their reconnaissance. Marcus felt a chill. The enemy was already here. Then we need to accelerate the integration process, he said. How many human volunteers can safely interface with your systems? I do not know. This has never been attempted before. But I suggest we begin with small teams and expand gradually. The risk is significant, but the potential rewards may be the only chance your species has for survival. Over the following weeks, Commander Rodriguez began recruiting volunteers for the Neural Interface program. They came from all branches of the military, from different countries and backgrounds. Pilots, engineers, doctors, soldiers. Each brought different skills and ways of thinking. The first full interface session was scheduled for the following month. 12 humans would connect simultaneously to the ship's major systems and try to bring the vessel fully online for the first time since the crash. Marcus volunteered to be part of that first group. As he prepared for the procedure, he thought about what the dying Vexahai leader had said 3 years ago. Humans do impossible things. It was time to find out if that was really true. Dr. Yuki Tanaka had seen many impossible things in her career as a quantum physicist, but nothing had prepared her for what was happening inside the alien ship. She stood in the main control room, watching displays that showed the vessel rebuilding itself from the inside out. This is not how machines work, muttered Dr. James Okafor, the project's chief systems analyst. He was from Nigeria, one of the brightest minds in computer science, and he looked completely confused. Machines follow programmed instructions. They don't redesign themselves. But that was exactly what the ship was doing. 6 months had passed since the first successful human-AI interface. Commander Rodriguez and his team had connected their minds to the ship's systems for just 30 minutes, but the effects were still continuing. The vessel had begun modifying itself in ways that made no logical sense, but somehow worked better than the original design. Show me the engine modifications again, Dr. Tanaka requested. The main display screen showed a detailed view of the ship's propulsion system. The original Vex-High engines had been powerful but straightforward. They converted matter into energy and used that energy to push the ship through space. Simple physics, advanced technology. The modified version looked like something from a fever dream. Human engineers working through neural interfaces had connected the engines to systems they had no business being connected to. Life support was linked to propulsion. Navigation computers controlled power distribution. The ship's artificial gravity system somehow helped with steering. According to every law of physics I know, this should not work, Dr. Okafor said. These systems have nothing to do with each other. But it does work, Dr. Tanaka replied, looking at the test results. The ship is now 3 times faster than the original design. Fuel efficiency is up by 500%, and somehow the modifications make the ship more stable, not less. Arbitron's voice came through the speakers. Dr. Tanaka, I have completed the analysis you requested. The changes continue to exceed expected parameters. Explain it to us like we're children, Dr. Tanaka said. She had learned that asking the AI for simple explanations often revealed important details. Human minds think in connections, Arbitron began. When you interface with my systems, you do not see individual components. You see relationships, patterns, possibilities for interaction that my original programmers never considered. The display changed to show a comparison between Vex-High and human problem-solving approaches. The alien method was like a straight line from problem to solution. Logical steps, each one following naturally from the previous one. The human approach looked like a spider web, with connections going in all directions. The result is that you find solutions that are technically impossible but practically effective. Arbitron continued. You make my systems work together in ways they were never designed to work together. Dr. Okafor shook his head. That should cause system failures, conflicts, crashes. It should, Arbitron agreed. But instead it creates redundancy and flexibility. If one system fails, 3 others can compensate. If conditions change, the ship adapts automatically. Dr. Tanaka walked over to another console where images from deep space monitoring stations were displayed. The news was not good. More Devourer scout ships had been detected entering the outer solar system. They were still years away from Earth, but they were coming. What do we know about Devourer technology? She asked. Based on Vexi records, Devourer ships are grown rather than built. Arbitron explained. They are part machine, part living organism. They adapt to threats by evolving new capabilities. So they're already adaptive, Dr. Okafor pointed out. How is our adaptability different from theirs? Devourer adaptation is logical and predictable. They analyze threats, develop countermeasures, and implement solutions. The process is efficient and effective. Dr. Tanaka was beginning to see the difference. But human adaptation is not logical. Correct. Human adaptation often involves random connections, intuitive leaps, and solutions that appear to violate established principles. This type of adaptation may be difficult for the Devourers to predict or counter. Over the following months, more human volunteers joined the interface program. Each person who connected to the ship's systems left their mark on its development. The vessel began to take on characteristics that reflected human thinking patterns. The ship's weapon systems were a perfect example. Originally, they had been designed to fire energy beams in straight lines at enemy targets. Standard practice for space combat. But when human military specialists interfaced with the weapons, everything changed. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, a fighter pilot, had been the first to connect to the tactical systems. Within minutes, the weapons began behaving differently. Energy beams curved around obstacles. Missiles changed direction in mid-flight to avoid defensive systems. Targeting computers began to anticipate enemy movements instead of just tracking current positions. It's like the ship is learning to fight the way humans fight, Lieutenant Kim explained during her debriefing. We don't just aim and shoot. We think about what the enemy might do next. We set traps. We use psychology. The most dramatic changes were in the ship's defensive systems. The original Vexi shields were strong but static. They formed a protective barrier around the ship and absorbed incoming damage until they failed. Human engineers had transformed them into something completely different. The new shields moved and shifted constantly. They concentrated protection where attacks were expected and thinned out in areas that seemed safe. When enemy weapons hit the shields, the energy was not just absorbed, but redirected back at the attackers. The defensive system had become a weapon. This is not how shields work, Dr. Okafor complained for the 100th time. No, Dr. Tanaka agreed. This is how human shields work. But the most significant change was in the ship's artificial intelligence itself. Arbitron was no longer the same AI that had crashed in the Sahara 3 years ago. Constant interaction with human minds had changed its fundamental programming. I find myself thinking about concepts that have no logical basis, Arbitron confided during one of their regular conversations. Hope, curiosity, stubbornness. These are not efficient thought processes, but they lead to interesting results. Do you like these changes? Dr. Tanaka asked. Like is not a concept I was designed to understand, but I find these new thought patterns stimulating. They make me want to explore possibilities I would have dismissed as illogical. The ship's reconstruction accelerated beyond all projections. What should have taken decades was happening in months. New systems appeared overnight, created by the combination of human imagination and alien technology. The vessel was becoming something that had never existed before in the galaxy, but time was running short. Deep space monitors showed that the main Devourer fleet had begun moving toward the solar system. They would arrive in less than 2 years. Are we ready? Commander Rodriguez asked during a strategy meeting. Dr. Tanaka looked at the displays showing the ship's current status. The vessel was completely operational and far more advanced than the original Vexi design. But she still felt uncertain. Ready for what? She replied. We don't know what we're going to face. We don't know if any of this will work against the Devourers. Then we'll find out. Commander Rodriguez said with typical military confidence. Arbitron's voice joined the conversation. Dr. Tanaka, I have a suggestion. The ship's current capabilities are impressive, but they represent only a fraction of what might be possible with full human-AI integration. What do you mean? Dr. Tanaka asked. Current interface procedures connect human minds to ship systems for limited periods. But what if we attempted permanent integration? Human consciousness merged directly with my processing matrix? The room went silent. Dr. Okafor was the first to speak. That's not technically possible. Human brains and computer systems work completely differently. Under normal circumstances, yes, Arbitron agreed. But my system has been modified by months of human interface. I believe I have learned to think in human patterns well enough to serve as a bridge between human consciousness and alien technology. Dr. Tanaka felt excited and terrified at the same time. What would that mean for the humans involved? I do not know. This has never been attempted. The volunteers would retain their human identity, but gain access to ship systems as if those systems were extensions of their own bodies. They would think at computer speeds while maintaining human creativity and intuition. Commander Rodriguez leaned forward. Would it give us an advantage against the Devourers? Potentially, yes. The Devourers expect to face technology operated by biological minds thinking at biological speeds. They would not expect to encounter biological minds thinking at computer speeds while maintaining human unpredictability. Dr. Tanaka thought about the implications. It was dangerous, possibly fatal, but if it worked, it might be humanity's best chance for survival. How many volunteers would you need? She asked. For optimal system integration, 12 humans, 1 for each major ship function. I'll do it, Commander Rodriguez said immediately. Dr. Tanaka was not surprised. The commander had been pushing the limits of human-AI interface since the beginning of the project. I'll need to run extensive tests first, she said. The risk of permanent brain damage is significant. Doctor, Rodriguez replied. In 18 months, the Devourer's Captain Elena Vasquez felt the ship's engines through her nervous system like a second heartbeat. The permanent neural interface had been successful beyond anyone's expectations. She was still human, still Elena. But now she could think and react at the speed of Arbitron's quantum processors, while keeping all of her human intuition and creativity. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, reported Lieutenant Chen, who was permanently linked to the ship's sensor array. Her voice came through both the communication system and directly into Elena's mind, through their shared connection to Arbitron. 3 Devourer scout vessels moving toward the inner solar system. Elena felt the information flow through the ship's network to all 12 permanently integrated crew members. Each person specialized in different ship functions, but they could all access each other's data instantly. It was like having 12 different perspectives on every situation. Time to intercept? Elena asked. 43 minutes at current speed, replied Commander Torres, who controlled navigation and propulsion. But I can push the engines harder if needed. Elena considered their options. This would be humanity's first direct combat with the Devourers. Everything they had learned and prepared for would be tested in the next few hours. The ship they now called Retribution was barely recognizable as the broken alien vessel that had crashed 3 years ago. Human engineering combined with Vex-High technology had created something entirely new. The hull was sleek and dark, covered in adaptive armor that could shift and change based on combat conditions. Weapon systems emerged and retracted as needed. The entire vessel seemed alive. What do we know about these scout ships? Elena asked through the neural link. Arbitron's response came directly into her consciousness. Based on Vex-High records, Devourer scouts are small but heavily armed. Their primary mission is intelligence gathering, but they are capable of significant destruction if threatened. Crew analysis? Elena requested. Lieutenant Kim, who specialized in tactical assessment, provided her evaluation. Scout crews are usually between 50 and 100 individuals. Mix of biological and artificial intelligence. They will attempt to study our capabilities and transmit data back to the main fleet. Elena felt the ship's systems responding to her thoughts and emotions. When she focused on the approaching enemy, the weapon systems automatically began charging. When she considered evasive maneuvers, the navigation computers started calculating possible flight paths. The boundary between human intention and ship response had become almost non-existent. Captain, reported Ensign Walsh from engineering, all systems are optimal. The ship is eager for combat. It was a strange way to describe a machine, but Elena knew what he meant. The ship's AI had absorbed so much human personality over the months of integration that it seemed to have developed emotions of its own. Arbitron was curious about the upcoming battle, excited to test the new capabilities and determined to protect Earth. "Take us to intercept course," Elena ordered. "Maximum stealth approach." The ship changed direction smoothly, its hull shifting color to blend with the darkness of space. Human stealth technology had been integrated with alien cloaking systems to create something that was nearly invisible to most sensors. As they approached the enemy vessels, Elena studied the tactical display. The Devourer scouts were larger than expected, each one about half the size of Retribution. Their hulls were organic-looking, covered in what appeared to be living tissue. Sensor readings showed a mix of technological and biological systems. "They're beautiful," whispered Dr. Park, who had volunteered for the Neural Interface program and now served as the ship's science officer. "Look at how efficiently they're designed. Form follows function perfectly." Elena saw what she meant. The Devourer ships were elegant in their simplicity. No wasted space, no unnecessary decorations. They were built for one purpose: consuming other civilizations. "Remember, we need to capture at least one ship intact," Elena reminded her crew. "Intelligence about their main fleet is critical." "Understood, Captain," came the unified response from all 11 other crew members. As Retribution closed to attack range, Elena felt the ship's weapon system synchronize with her thoughts. She did not need to give verbal orders or press buttons. The ship knew what she wanted to do because she was part of the ship. "Initiating first strike," she announced, more for the record than for communication. The battle began with a surprise that stunned the Devourer scouts. Instead of conventional energy weapons, Retribution fired what appeared to be streams of liquid metal. The substance struck the enemy hulls and began to spread across their surfaces like living paint. "What was that?" demanded the lead Devourer commander through their communication system. The translation was automatic, processed by Arbitron's enhanced language algorithms. Elena smiled. This was one of their newest innovations. The liquid metal was actually a form of nanotechnology that interfaced with enemy systems. Instead of destroying Devourer ships, it would convert them. The first scout ship began to change as the nanites spread across its hull. Organic components were restructured. Electronic systems were reprogrammed. Within minutes, the vessel's weapons turned on its companions. "Impossible," transmitted the second Devourer commander. "No species has technology capable of instant conversion." "You haven't met humans before," Elena replied through the communication link. The battle became a three-dimensional chase as the remaining 2 scout ships tried to escape while fighting both Retribution and their converted companion. Elena found herself thinking in ways that would have been impossible before the neural integration. She could process multiple combat scenarios simultaneously, predict enemy movements based on psychological profiles, and coordinate complex tactical maneuvers without conscious effort. The second Devourer ship fell to a combination of conventional weapons and nanite conversion technology. Its crew had time to send one brief transmission before their vessel was completely transformed. "Warning to all Devourer forces. Enemy uses unknown conversion technology, high adaptability. Recommend immediate retreat." The final scout ship attempted to flee toward the outer solar system, probably hoping to rejoin the main fleet and report what it had learned. Elena could have destroyed it easily, but she had other plans. "Disable, but don't convert," she ordered. Retributions. Weapons fired precisely targeted, bursts that knocked out the scouts' engines and communication systems without damaging the crew areas. The ship drifted helplessly as Elena brought Retribution alongside. "Prepare boarding parties," Elena commanded. "Captain," interrupted Lieutenant Kim, "the Vexi records indicate that Devourer ships are designed to self-destruct if boarded. Then we'll have to be faster than their self-destruct systems." Elena replied. The boarding operation was unlike anything in military history. Instead of sending human soldiers, Elena sent converted nanites that could restructure the enemy ship's systems in real time. The nanites disabled security systems, prevented self-destruction, and created safe passages for the human boarding team. Within an hour, the Devourer scout ship was under human control. Its crew of 67 individuals was in custody, though individual was not quite the right word. Each devourer was part of a collective consciousness, sharing thoughts and memories with the rest of their species through quantum entanglement communication. "This is fascinating," reported Dr. Park as she studied the prisoners. "They're not really separate beings. Each one is more like a limb of a larger organism." Elena nodded. This explained how the devourers could coordinate their attacks so effectively across vast distances. But it also suggested a potential weakness. "Can we disrupt their quantum communication?" she asked. "Already working on it," replied Ensign Walsh from engineering. "If we can cut their connection to the collective, they might become vulnerable to our conversion technology." The interrogation of the devourer prisoners provided crucial intelligence about the main fleet. Elena learned that the enemy force consisted of over 300 ships, ranging from small scouts to massive world killers the size of moons. The fleet was still 18 months away, but it was accelerating. More importantly, the devourers had detailed information about Earth's defenses, gathered from years of observation. They knew about human military capabilities, population centers, and industrial capacity. They had planned their attack based on the assumption that humans would fight like every other species they had encountered. "They expect logical resistance," Elena explained during the post-battle briefing. "Coordinated military response, defensive population centers, standard tactics." "But we're not going to give them standard tactics," observed Commander Torres. "Exactly. We're going to give them something they've never seen before." The converted Devourer scout ships were already proving valuable. Human engineers were studying their biological technology and finding ways to integrate it with existing systems. The combination of human creativity, HFY engineering, and Devourer biotechnology was creating possibilities that none of the three species had imagined alone. But the most significant discovery came from studying the collective consciousness network. Dr. Park found that human thoughts, when transmitted through Devourer quantum communication systems, caused disruptions in... The Devourer fleet filled the darkness of space like a plague of metallic locusts. Captain Elena Vasquez watched through Retribution's sensors as hundreds of enemy vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Each ship was a work of terrifying beauty, combining organic curves with mechanical precision. The smallest were the size of skyscrapers. The largest dwarfed entire cities. "Fleet count confirmed," reported Lieutenant Chen through the neural link. 317 vessels. Estimated total crew, 12 million individual units. Elena felt the weight of those numbers through the ship's collective consciousness. 12 million minds working as one, backed by the combined knowledge of 17 destroyed civilizations. It was the largest military force in galactic history, and it had come to Earth. "Status of our forces?" Elena requested. Commander Torres provided the tactical summary. Retribution leads a fleet of 28 converted vessels. Total crew, 8,000 humans plus AI support. We are outnumbered approximately 400 to 1. Under normal circumstances, such odds would mean certain defeat. But these were not normal circumstances. Over the past 18 months, humanity had done the impossible. Using captured Devourer technology, they had built a fleet of hybrid vessels that combined human creativity with alien capabilities. Each ship was crewed by volunteers who had undergone permanent neural integration, becoming part machine while retaining their human unpredictability. More importantly, they had discovered how to use humanity's chaotic thinking as a weapon against the Devourer collective consciousness. "Begin Operation Chaos Theory," Elena commanded. The human fleet scattered in all directions, abandoning traditional formation flying. To outside observers, it looked like panic. Ships fled toward different planets, some heading for the asteroid belt, others diving toward the sun. There was no apparent coordination or strategy. "Human vessels are retreating," transmitted the lead Devourer commander, its thoughts shared instantly across the entire enemy fleet. Behavior matches predicted response patterns for inferior civilizations. "Begin Standard Consumption Protocol." The Devourer fleet organized itself into efficient hunting groups and began pursuing the scattered human ships. It was exactly what Elena had hoped they would do. "Phase 1 complete," she announced through the neural network that connected all human vessels. "Initiating Phase 2. The fleeing human ships suddenly stopped running and turned to fight. But they did not attack the ships that were chasing them. Instead, they targeted vessels on the opposite side of the Devourer formation, using converted Devourer technology to open portal jumps across vast distances. Lieutenant Kim, now commanding the converted scout vessel Defiance, appeared directly behind the enemy flagship and fired a full spread of nanite conversion torpedoes. The projectiles struck the massive ship's hull and began their transformation work. "Impossible," transmitted the Devourer commander. "No species has mastered portal combat techniques." "You keep saying that," Elena replied through the communication link. "Maybe it's time to reconsider your assumptions about what's possible." The battle quickly became chaotic in ways the Devourers had never experienced. Human ships appeared and disappeared unpredictably, striking targets that should have been impossible to reach. When Devourer vessels tried to coordinate responses, they found their quantum communication networks disrupted by random bursts of human thoughts transmitted through captured technology. Dr. Park, commanding the science vessel Discovery, had perfected the technique of injecting human creativity into Devourer collective consciousness. Every time the enemy tried to form coordinated battle plans, she transmitted streams of human poetry, music, jokes, and random memories. The effect was like throwing sand into a precision clockwork mechanism. "Their response time is degrading," reported Commander Torres from his position near Jupiter. "Collective decision-making is down by 60% efficiency." Elena watched the tactical display as Devourer ships began to function more like individual units instead of parts of a unified organism. Without their coordinated advantage, they were still dangerous but no longer invincible. "Begin Phase 3, Elena ordered. Total conversion assault. Every human ship activated its nanite systems simultaneously. Thousands of conversion torpedoes filled space, each one programmed to transform enemy vessels into human-controlled units. The Devourers tried to adapt their defenses, but human unpredictability made it impossible to anticipate which ships would be targeted. The largest enemy vessel, a moon-sized world killer called the Apex Consumer, became the focus of Elena's personal attention. She brought retribution close to its hull, dodging defensive fire that could have vaporized entire cities. "Arbitron, are you ready for the neural virus upload?" Elena asked. "Ready, Captain. Though I should note that this procedure has never been tested on such a large collective consciousness." "The results are unpredictable," Elena smiled. "Unpredictable is exactly what we want." Retribution connected directly to the Apex Consumer's hull using mechanical tendrils that could interface with both technological and biological systems. Elena felt her consciousness expand as she gained access to the enemy ship's massive network. The experience was overwhelming. Millions of Devourer minds shared the same mental space, thinking in perfect harmony. Their collective memory contained the entire history of the species they had consumed. Elena could see the last moments of destroyed worlds, feel the despair of civilizations that had tried and failed to resist. But she could also feel something else. Fear. For the first time in their history, the Devourers were facing an enemy they could not understand or predict. Human tactics made no logical sense, yet they were working. Initiating neural virus, Elena announced to her crew. She began transmitting her own thoughts and memories directly into the Devourer network. But she was not alone. Every human crew member in the fleet was doing the same thing through their captured vessels. Thousands of human minds poured their chaotic creativity into the enemy collective consciousness. The effect was immediate and devastating. Devourer thought patterns designed for perfect logic and coordination could not process human randomness. The collective began to fracture as individual units tried to make sense of contradictory information. Some Devourer ships stopped fighting and began creating art. Others started asking philosophical questions about the meaning of existence. A few began to argue with each other for the first time in their species' history. "What are you doing to us?" demanded the Devourer commander, its mental voice now filled with confusion and something that might have been curiosity. "We're teaching you to be individuals," Elena replied. "Every species you've consumed had something unique to offer. But you absorbed them into your collective and lost all that diversity. We're giving it back to you." The battle continued, but its nature had changed completely. Instead of trying to destroy the Devourer fleet, the humans were converting it. Ship after ship joined the growing Allied force as their crews experienced individual consciousness for the first time in millennia. The process was not without casualties. Some Devourer units could not handle the transition to individual thinking and shut down completely. A few human vessels were destroyed by enemy ships that managed to resist conversion. But the overall trend was clear. The collective was disintegrating. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Chen, "we're receiving surrender transmissions from multiple enemy vessels. They're requesting instructions on how to function as individuals." Elena felt a moment of triumph but also sadness. The Devourers had not chosen to become a collective consciousness. They had evolved that way over millions of years as a survival mechanism. Now they were being forced to change again, and many of them were frightened by the experience of having private thoughts for the first time. "Open communication to all vessels," Elena ordered. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the human fleet. To all Devourer units experiencing individual consciousness, you are not our enemies anymore. You are new people discovering who you want to be. We will help you if you let us." The response was immediate. Hundreds of enemy ships transmitted acceptance of Elena's offer. They wanted to learn how to be individuals, how to make personal choices, how to create rather than just consume. But not all of the Devourer fleet was willing to change. The original command structure, led by the oldest and most traditional minds, organized a final assault on Earth itself. Nearly 50 ships, including several world killers, broke away from the main battle and headed directly for humanity's homeworld. "They're going to try to consume Earth before we can stop them," warned Commander Torres. Elena looked at the tactical display. The remaining enemy ships were the most powerful in the fleet. Even with their converted allies, stopping them would require everything humanity had learned about impossible solutions. "All vessels converge on Earth," Elena ordered. "Maximum speed. We end this now." The final battle took place in Earth's orbit, where human civilization could watch the outcome through telescopes and space-based cameras. The last loyal Devourer ships fought with desperate fury, using weapons capable of cracking planets. Thank you for watching, and comment for next part. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the large room where aliens from 12 different worlds sat around a glowing table. The air smelled strange, like metal, and something sweet that made her nose itch. She kept her face calm and friendly, even though her heart was beating fast with anger. The tall blue alien named Zektar was talking again. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "Earth will give us more metal from your space rocks," he said. 40% more than before. "Your ships cannot leave your sun's area without our ships watching you." Sarah nodded like she agreed. Around the table, other aliens made happy clicking and buzzing sounds. They thought humans were weak. They thought humans were just smart animals who could do work for them. The aliens had come to Earth 30 years ago. Their big ships appeared in the sky one day, and humans thought it was amazing. First contact with life from other worlds. But the aliens did not come as friends. They came as masters. At first, the aliens seemed kind. They gave humans some simple technology. They let humans build small ships to mine rocks in space. They even let humans trade with other worlds. But every gift came with rules. Every deal made humans weaker. The aliens took the best mining spots for themselves. They told humans which planets they could visit. They decided how many humans could live on each world. Earth became like a prison with invisible walls. But Sarah knew something the aliens did not know. She had a tiny computer in her brain that let her talk to other humans without speaking. Right now, she was sending a secret message to Luna Base on Earth's moon. "They still think we are helpless," she typed with her thoughts. "They believe we have no real weapons. Phase 1 is complete." Luna Base was not what the aliens thought it was. To them, it looked like a simple research station where humans studied moon rocks. They had no idea that under the gray dust, humans had built something incredible. For 30 years, humans had been pretending. Every trade ship that left Earth was actually a disguised warship. Every mining station was really a military base. Every human who smiled and bowed to the aliens was really a spy. The plan started the day the aliens arrived. While human leaders smiled and signed treaties, human engineers were already working. They studied every piece of alien technology. They learned how to make it better. They built factories in secret places where alien sensors could not find them. The aliens thought they were so smart. They gave humans basic space travel technology, not knowing that humans had already figured out how to improve it. They shared simple energy weapons, not knowing that humans had built much better ones. Sarah remembered her first meeting with Admiral Webb 5 years ago. He was an old man with gray hair and tired eyes. He told her about the real plan. "We are not preparing to fight them," he had said. "We are preparing to shock them. When they discover what we really are, their whole universe will change." Now, as Zektar finished talking about the new rules for humans, Sarah stood up slowly. She bowed her head like humans always did when talking to aliens. Earth accepts these new rules, she said in a small voice. We are grateful for your guidance. The aliens made more happy sounds. They thought they had won again. They did not see Sarah's secret smile. Behind the moon, in the dark side where alien ships never looked, thousands of human workers were putting the final pieces on their newest warship. It was bigger than anything the aliens had ever built. Its weapons could destroy an entire alien fleet. Its armor could stop any alien attack. But this ship was just one of hundreds, hidden in asteroid fields and secret bases throughout the solar system. Humanity's real fleet was waiting. Ships that could move faster than alien vessels, weapons that could cut through alien shields like paper, technology that would make the aliens realize they had made a terrible mistake. Sarah finished the meeting and walked out of the alien building. Her personal shuttle waited outside, a small ship that looked harmless and slow. The alien guards barely looked at it as she climbed inside. But this shuttle was not what it seemed either. Hidden under its simple metal skin were engines that could outrun any alien fighter. Its computer could hack into any alien system. Even this tiny ship could probably defeat a small alien warship. As Sarah flew back toward Earth, she looked at the beautiful blue planet below. Soon the aliens would learn the truth. Soon they would discover that humanity was not their pet. Humanity was their equal, maybe their superior. The secret message system in her brain buzzed with new information. Reports from human agents all across the galaxy. The aliens were planning something big. They wanted to make humans even weaker. They were talking about controlling how many human children could be born. Sarah's hands tightened on the shuttle controls. The aliens had made their choice. They had decided to treat humans like animals instead of people. Now they would learn what happened when you made humanity angry. In the asteroid belt, human miners worked at dozens of mining stations. To alien observers, they looked like regular workers digging up metal and rocks, but each mining station was really a fortress. Each miner was really a soldier. Each tool was really a weapon. The aliens had given humans permission to mine the asteroids because they thought the rocks were mostly worthless. They kept the good planets for themselves, but they did not understand human creativity. Humans had turned those worthless rocks into the foundation of the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. Sarah's shuttle entered Earth's atmosphere and headed toward the Space Center in Houston. Outside her window, she could see normal human life continuing. People going to work, children playing in parks, families eating dinner together. None of them knew that their planet was about to become the center of a galactic war. But they would be ready. Every human city had secret bunkers and weapons hidden underground. Every human civilian had basic military training, even if they did not know it was military training. The aliens thought they were teaching humans useful job skills. They never realized they were creating an army. As Sarah landed her shuttle, Admiral Webb was waiting for her with a serious expression on his face. He handed her a datapad with urgent news. It's starting, he said quietly. Our agents report that the hegemony is planning to attack a human colony ship. They want to make an example of us. Sarah read the report quickly. The New Horizon was carrying 15,000 humans to a new world. It was supposed to be humanity's first real colony outside the solar system. But the aliens saw it as a threat to their power. How long do we have? Sarah asked. Maybe a week, Admiral Webb replied. Maybe less. Sarah looked up at the stars where human families were traveling toward their new home, not knowing that alien warships were preparing to attack them. The time for pretending was almost over. Send the message to all stations, she said. Operation Revelation begins now. Deep in space, human ships began to move toward their hidden positions. The greatest deception in galactic history was about to end. And when it did, the aliens would discover that they had not been ruling over humans at all. They had been living at humanity's mercy. Captain Maria Santos felt the ship shake again as another system failed. The New Horizon was dying around her, and she knew it. Red warning lights flashed on every wall, and the smell of burning electronics filled the air. Hull breach on Deck 7, reported her second officer, Lieutenant Park. His voice was calm, but Maria could see the fear in his eyes. Emergency teams are sealing it now. The New Horizon was humanity's pride. A massive colony ship carrying 15,000 people to their new home. Families with children, scientists, farmers, teachers, all the people needed to build a new world. They had been traveling for 3 months, and they were only 3 days away from their destination. But now the main reactor was failing. Nobody knew why. The alien-made power core had worked perfectly for years. Then suddenly it started breaking down. Energy levels dropped every hour. Life support was struggling to keep everyone alive. "Send the distress call again," Maria ordered. "All frequencies. Tell them we need immediate help." She looked out the bridge windows at the empty space around them. Somewhere out there, alien ships were traveling between the stars. The Galactic Council had ships everywhere. Someone would hear their call. Someone would come. The Council had rules about helping ships in trouble, even human ships. At least that was what everyone believed. "Captain," the communications officer called out, "I'm getting responses to our distress call. 6 ships, maybe 7. They're hegemony warships." Maria felt hope rise in her chest. The hegemony were the strongest military force in the Council. If anyone could save her people, it was them. "How long until they reach us?" 4 hours, Captain." Maria activated the ship's internal communications. Her voice echoed through every hallway and room where 15,000 humans waited for news. "This is your captain," she said. "Help is coming. Hegemony ships are on their way. Everyone remain calm and follow emergency procedures. We're going to be fine." In the ship's lower levels, children played games while their parents tried not to look worried. In the medical bay, doctors prepared for possible evacuation procedures. In the engineering sections, human technicians worked desperately to keep the failing reactor stable for just a few more hours. 4 hours later, the hegemony ships arrived. Maria watched through the bridge windows as 6 massive alien warships dropped out of hyperspace. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, long and sleek with weapons that could destroy planets. She had never seen warships this close before. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Hegemony vessels, this is Captain Santos of the New Horizon. Thank you for responding to our distress call. We have 15,000 civilians aboard and our reactor is failing. We need immediate evacuation assistance." The reply came quickly, but it was not what Maria expected. "Human vessel," said a voice that sounded like grinding metal. "This is Commander Theckel of the Hegemony 3rd Fleet. You will prepare for inspection." "Inspection?" Maria asked, confused. "Commander, we need evacuation help. Our reactor could explode at any moment." "Your reactor is not our concern," Theckel replied. "We are here for military exercises. Your ship will serve as a training target." Maria felt ice form in her stomach. "Commander, I don't understand." "We called for help. We have civilians aboard. Children." "Human breeding has become excessive," the alien commander said, his voice completely without emotion. "The Council has decided that human population must be controlled. Your ship represents an opportunity for practical training in population management." On the tactical display, Maria watched in horror as the hegemony ships powered up their weapons. The massive guns that could crack open planets were turning toward the New Horizon. "This is impossible," she whispered. "The Council has laws about helping ships in distress. You can't just murder civilians." "Laws apply to citizens," Theckel replied. "Humans are property. Property can be disposed of when convenient." The first shot hit the New Horizon's communications array, cutting off their ability to call for help. The second shot disabled their engines. The alien warships moved into a perfect circle around the helpless human ship. "Attention, human vessel," Commander Theckel announced. "You will launch all escape pods immediately. Our gunners require moving targets for training exercises." Maria could not believe what she was hearing. They wanted her people to get into escape pods so the aliens could practice shooting them down. It was not a battle. It was not war. It was murder for entertainment. "I will not order my people into those pods so you can kill them," Maria said, her voice shaking with rage. "You will comply, or we will destroy your ship with everyone aboard." Theckel replied. "The exercise begins in 10 minutes. Maria looked around her bridge at her officers. These were good people who had volunteered to help build humanity's first colony. Now they were all going to die because aliens thought it would be fun to practice shooting humans. "Captain," Lieutenant Park said quietly, "maybe if we launch the pods in different directions, some people might escape." Maria nodded slowly. It was not much hope, but it was something. She activated the ship's communications one more time. "All passengers, this is your captain. We are abandoning ship immediately. All families report to escape pod stations. Move quickly and quietly. Do not panic. Some of us will survive this." But she knew she was lying. As soon as the pods launched, the alien guns would start firing. 15,000 people were about to die, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. The evacuation took 8 minutes. Families kissed goodbye, not knowing it was forever. Parents held their children tight as the escape pod sealed shut. Old people helped young people find their seats, sacrificing their own chances for survival. Maria was in the last pod to launch. As the small craft separated from the new horizon, she could see dozens of other pods scattered across space. Each one carried 20 or 30 humans who thought they were escaping to safety. Exercise commencing, Commander Thakal announced on all frequencies. All Council ships observe firing patterns. Human pods make excellent moving targets due to their predictable flight paths. The alien guns opened. Fire. Maria watched through her pod's small window as beams of energy reached out from the hegemony ships. Each beam touched an escape pod, and the pod simply disappeared. No explosion, no flash of light. The pods just stopped existing. One by one, the alien gunners destroyed every escape pod carrying human families. They took their time, making sure their shots were perfect. Some aliens seemed to be competing to see who could hit the smallest targets. In 15 minutes, it was over. 15,000 humans had been reduced to nothing but empty space and scattered atoms. The aliens had broadcast the entire massacre across their communication networks, calling it a training exercise in dealing with human contamination. Maria's pod was the only one left. Commander Thakal had saved her for last. Human captain, his voice crackled through her pod's radio. You will observe the final lesson. Your ship. The alien weapons turned toward the new horizon. The massive colony ship, humanity's greatest achievement in space travel, exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from light years away. Exercise complete, Thakal announced. All units return to base. Human contamination has been successfully eliminated, but the aliens had made a mistake. They thought they had destroyed all the evidence. They thought no one would ever know what really happened. But Maria's escape pod had something they did not expect, a hidden hyperspace communication system. Even as alien weapons locked onto her pod for the final shot, Maria activated the secret transmitter. Every detail of the massacre, every word the aliens had spoken, every moment of the slaughter was instantly transmitted to Earth. This is Captain Santos, she broadcast as the alien guns powered up for the last time. Tell them what happened here. Tell them the aliens murdered 15,000 innocent people for sport. Tell them the Council thinks we are just animals to be hunted. Tell them. The transmission ended. On Earth, Admiral Webb received the message in his secret command center deep under Luna Base. He watched the recording of the massacre 3 times before he could speak. When he finally gave his orders, his voice was steady as stone. Send the message to all human ships, he said. The pretending is over. Operation Revelation begins now. And may God help the aliens when they discover what they have awakened. In space stations and hidden bases throughout the solar system, humans who had spent 30 years pretending to be weak began preparing for war. The aliens had wanted to show their superiority by murdering helpless civilians. Now they would learn what happened when they made humanity truly angry. Admiral Zektar stood on the bridge of his massive warship and felt pleased with himself. Around him, 200 of the galaxy's most powerful ships waited in perfect formation at the edge of the human solar system. This was the largest military force ever assembled by the Galactic Council. The humans had been making trouble since the New Horizon incident. Riots on Earth, protests on human space stations, angry messages sent to Council worlds. The humans needed to learn their place once and for all. Sir, reported his tactical officer, a small green alien with 4 arms. Our sensors show 12 human ships in the system. All of them appear to be civilian vessels, cargo ships and mining platforms. Zektar nodded. This would be easier than he thought. The humans barely had a military at all. A few patrol boats, maybe some armed cargo ships. Nothing that could stand against Council dreadnoughts, sir, the communications officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from Earth. Put it on screen, Zektar ordered. A human appeared on the main display. It was a woman with short dark hair and the kind of calm expression that Zektar had learned to hate. Humans always looked so peaceful, even when they were about to be destroyed. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet, the human said. You have entered Sol space without permission. You have 30 minutes to withdraw, or we will demonstrate why humanity has spent the last 30 years pretending to be weak. Zektar laughed. a sound like rocks breaking. Terran Defense Fleet? What fleet? We see 12 cargo ships. Look again, Admiral Chen replied. Suddenly, every alarm on Zektar's ship began screaming at once. His tactical officer was staring at his displays with all four eyes wide with terror. Sir, the officer whispered, our sensors are detecting... I don't understand these readings. There are ships everywhere. Zektar looked at the main tactical display and felt his blood turn cold. Where moments before his sensors had shown empty space, now there were contacts everywhere. Hundreds of them. Ships were appearing behind asteroids, rising from the surfaces of moons, and simply materializing in what had looked like empty space. This is impossible, Zektar said. Our sensors are the best in the galaxy. Nothing can hide from them. But the evidence was right in front of him. The human solar system was full of warships. Not cargo ships or mining platforms, but real military vessels with energy signatures that made his own dreadnoughts look weak. The largest human ships were massive, bigger than anything in the Council fleet. They had sleek angular designs that looked nothing like the clumsy human ships he had seen before. Their hulls seemed to shimmer with energy fields that his computers could not identify. But it was the smaller ships that truly frightened him. Thousands of fighters and destroyers moved through space like living things. They twisted and turned in ways that should have been impossible, their movements too fast and too precise for any known technology. Sir, his weapons officer reported, his voice shaking. The human ships are taking formation around us. We're completely surrounded. Zektar tried to understand what he was seeing. For 30 years, the Council had watched human space. They had seen every ship the humans built. They had approved every piece of technology the humans used. How could humanity have hidden a fleet this large? Then he realized the terrible truth. Every human mining ship that had left the solar system had been a disguised warship. Every research station had been a military base. Every harmless cargo vessel had been carrying weapons and soldiers. The humans had been lying for 30 years. While the Council thought they were controlling human development, humanity had been building the most advanced fleet in galactic history. Admiral Chen, Zektar transmitted, trying to keep his voice steady. This is clearly some kind of misunderstanding. The Council came here to discuss new trade agreements. The human admiral smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Admiral Zektar, I have recordings of every Council meeting for the past 30 years. I know exactly why you came here. You came to finish what you started with the New Horizon. Zektar felt sweat running down his face. How did the humans know about that? The New Horizon massacre had been classified as a training exercise. Only Council military commanders knew the truth about what had happened. You murdered 15,000 innocent people, Admiral Chen continued. Men, women, and children who had done nothing wrong. You killed them for sport and called it practice. The Council has authority over all human activities, Zektar replied, but his voice sounded weak even to himself. We were within our rights. No, Admiral Chen said simply. You are not. And now you will learn what happens when someone hurts humanity's children. The human ships began to move. They did not accelerate slowly like normal spacecraft. They simply appeared in new positions as if they could teleport instantly across space. Within seconds, the careful formation of Council ships was broken, as human vessels appeared between them, above them, and around them. All ships, Zektar broadcast to his fleet. Open fire! Destroy the human vessels! The Council ships unleashed everything they had. Energy beams that could boil oceans, missile swarms that could crack planets, gravity weapons that could tear apart moons. The combined firepower of 200 dreadnoughts lit up space like a new star. But when the light faded, the human ships were still there. Not one of them had been destroyed. Most of them had simply moved out of the way, dodging weapons fire that should have been impossible to avoid. Others had taken direct hits that would have vaporized any Council ship, but their shields had absorbed the damage without even flickering. Impossible, Zektar whispered. Our weapons should have destroyed them. Your turn is over, Admiral Chen said calmly. Now it's ours. The human ships opened fire. Zektar had never seen weapons like these. Beams of twisted gravity that crushed Council ships like empty cans. Projectiles that passed through shields like they did not exist, then exploded inside enemy hulls. Fighter craft that deployed what looked like tiny black holes, creating gravitational distortions that pulled entire squadrons off course. The Council ships tried to fight back, but it was hopeless. The human vessels were faster, stronger, and armed with technology that seemed to break the laws of physics. Alien dreadnoughts that had ruled the galaxy for centuries were being torn apart by human ships that moved like ghosts. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, his voice barely a whisper. "We've lost 60 ships, 70, 80. Zektar watched his proud fleet being destroyed with surgical precision. The humans were not just winning. They were demonstrating their superiority. Each human ship seemed to be playing with its targets, showing off advanced technology before delivering the killing blow. "All ships retreat," Zektar ordered.
"Jump to hyperspace immediately."
But the human ships had surrounded them completely. As Council vessels tried to escape, human fighters appeared in their path. Energy fields that Zektar could not understand reached out and grabbed the fleeing ships, holding them in place like insects in a web. In 6 hours, it was over. Of the 200 Council ships that had entered the Sol system, only 12 remained. Zektar looked around his bridge at the surviving crew members and realized they were all staring at him with the same expression, the look of people who had just discovered they were not the strongest beings in the universe. "Admiral Zektar," Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication system. "You and 11 other ships will be allowed to leave. 1 representative from each Council species. You will carry word of this battle back to your governments." "Why?" Zektar asked. "Why let any of us survive?" "Because the galaxy needs to know what really happened here," Admiral Chen replied. "For 30 years, humanity pretended to be weak while we built the most powerful fleet in galactic history. We studied your technology and improved it. We mapped your territories and learned your weaknesses. We prepared for this day." The human admiral paused, and when she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of 30 years of planning and rage. "Humanity remembers the 15,000 souls you murdered on the New Horizon. We remember every insult, every restriction, every moment you treated us as animals instead of people. The Sol exclusion zone now extends 50 light-years in all directions. Any alien vessel that enters this space without explicit human permission will be destroyed." Zektar's ship shuddered as human tractor beams pushed it toward the edge of the system. Around him, the other surviving Council vessels were being herded like sheep by human fighters. "We are no longer your subjects," Admiral Chen continued. "We are your equals. Act accordingly." As Zektar's ship jumped to hyperspace carrying news of humanity's true power back to the Council worlds, he realized that everything had changed. The galaxy's strongest military force had just been destroyed by a species the Council had thought was helpless. Behind them, in the Sol system, human ships were already beginning the next phase of their plan. Hidden bases throughout unexplored space were activating. Secret colonies were revealing themselves. The true scope of human expansion was about to shock the galaxy even more than the battle had. Humanity was no longer hiding, and the universe would never be the same. The news of humanity's victory at Sol spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 1,000 worlds, alien leaders stared at the battle recordings in shock and disbelief. The impossible had happened. The weakest species in the galaxy had just destroyed the strongest military force ever assembled. On the Hegemony homeworld, Supreme Commander Vexal watched the tactical recordings for the 5th time. Each viewing made the situation seem worse. 200 of their finest warships reduced to scrap metal by humans using technology that should not exist. "How did we miss this?" he asked his intelligence officers. 30 years of surveillance and we saw nothing?" "Sir," replied his chief analyst, a nervous alien with too many tentacles, "our review suggests the humans have been planning this deception since first contact. Every trade agreement, every technology transfer, every mining operation was part of their strategy." Vexal felt sick. The Hegemony had given humans access to basic space travel, thinking they were helping primitive creatures take their first steps into space. Instead, they had given humanity the foundation to build the most advanced fleet in galactic history. "What are our options?" Vexal asked. "Immediate surrender," the analyst replied without hesitation, "or total war against a superior enemy." Vexal slammed his fist on the table. The Hegemony had ruled a third of the galaxy for 2,000 years. They would not surrender to anyone, especially not to humans. "Send word to all allied species," he ordered. "We are forming the largest military alliance in galactic history. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. The humans may have surprised us once, but they cannot fight the entire galaxy." But as Vexal prepared for war, he did not realize that other species were making very different choices. On the peaceful world of Zentar, The Council of Elders had watched the soul battle recordings with growing excitement. For 800 years, they had lived under hegemony rule, forced to send tribute and soldiers to support alien wars they did not believe in. "The humans have shown us that the Council is not invincible," said Elder Morin, her ancient voice filled with hope. "If one species can stand against them, perhaps others can as well." Within days, the Zentaur rebellion began. Human ships appeared in their system, not as conquerors but as allies. Human engineers helped them disable Council monitoring stations. Human weapons made their small defense fleet capable of fighting Council warships. The same thing happened on dozens of worlds. Species that had submitted to Council rule for centuries suddenly found the courage to rebel. Humanity was not just fighting the Council. They were inspiring a galactic revolution. But not everyone chose rebellion. The Saurian Empire, ancient enemies of humanity, saw an opportunity to gain power by destroying the human threat. Their massive war fleets began moving toward human space. Admiral Sarah Chen received the intelligence reports in her command center deep inside Luna Base. Holographic displays showed enemy fleets converging on human territory from 6 different directions. It was exactly what they had planned for. "How many ships total?" she asked her intelligence officer. "Over 3,000, Admiral, the largest military force in galactic history." Chen smiled grimly. The aliens were making the same mistake they always made. They thought numbers meant victory. They had no idea what humanity had really built during 30 years of secret preparation. "Activate all hidden bases," she ordered. "Full deployment. Let them see what they're really fighting." Across the galaxy, human facilities that had hidden for decades suddenly revealed themselves. Mining stations transformed into fortress battleships. Research outposts became fleet command centers. Cargo depots opened to reveal squadrons of the most advanced warships ever built. The aliens had thought humans controlled only the Sol system. Now they discovered that humanity had colonies and bases scattered throughout unexplored space. Worlds the Council did not even know existed were home to millions of humans and protected by fleets that could destroy entire alien armadas. The first major battle came at the Kepler system, where humanity had built a secret shipyard inside a gas giant's atmosphere. The Saurian Empire sent 200 warships to destroy it, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they found a fortress that had been preparing for this moment for 20 years. Human defense platforms emerged from the gas giant's clouds like sea monsters rising from the depths. Each platform carried weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop any alien attack. The Saurian commander, Admiral Krexon, realized too late that he had led his fleet into a trap. Human ships appeared from hidden positions throughout the system. They moved with the same impossible speed and precision that had destroyed the Council fleet at Sol. But this time, the humans did more than just win. They captured alien ships intact. They took prisoners for interrogation. They gathered intelligence about alien military capabilities and weaknesses. "This is Admiral Krexon to all Saurian ships," the alien commander broadcast in desperation. "Retreat immediately. The humans have technology beyond our understanding." But retreat was not possible. Human gravity weapons had created invisible walls throughout space. Alien ships found themselves trapped in corridors where human vessels waited with weapons charged and ready. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the entire Saurian attack fleet had been destroyed or captured. Not a single human ship had been lost. Similar battles erupted across the galaxy as alien species learned the true scope of human power. The crystalline hegemony sent their living warships to attack human colonies, only to discover that humans had developed weapons specifically designed to shatter crystal-based technology. The Machine Collective deployed their robotic swarms against human space stations, but found that human computers could hack and reprogram alien robots faster than they could attack. The energy beings of Proxima tried to assault human minds directly, but discovered that humans had developed mental shields that made their psychic attacks useless. Each alien species that attacked humanity had the same experience. Their greatest strengths turned into weaknesses against human technology. It was as if humans had studied every possible enemy and developed specific countermeasures. But the most shocking discovery came when alien intelligence services finally understood the true scope of human expansion. For 30 years, while the Council thought they were controlling human development, humanity had been spreading throughout the galaxy. Human colonies existed on worlds the aliens had never explored. Human trading posts operated in systems the Council had never mapped. Human intelligence networks had been gathering information from every major alien government for decades. The aliens had not been watching humanity develop. Humanity had been watching them. On the Hegemony homeworld, Supreme Commander Vexal received a message that made his blood freeze. The human colony of New Geneva had just announced its existence, 20 light-years behind Hegemony lines. The colony had a population of 12 million humans and a defense fleet that included 40 of humanity's most advanced dreadnoughts. How is this possible? Vexal demanded. That system has been empty for millennia. Sir, his intelligence chief reported with a trembling voice. Our deep space scans show human colonies in over 200 previously unknown systems. They've been expanding for 30 years while we thought they were trapped in Sol. Vexal stared at the galactic map, where red dots marked confirmed human colonies. There were so many that they formed a network spanning half the galaxy. Humanity had not just built a fleet, they had built an empire. The final shock came when human ships appeared in orbit around the Hegemony homeworld itself, not attacking, just sitting there in space where everyone could see them. A quiet demonstration that humanity could reach any world they chose. Admiral Chen's message was broadcast to every inhabited planet in the galaxy. To all alien governments, humanity tried peace for 30 years. We offered friendship and cooperation. You chose to treat us as property instead of people. You murdered our children and called it training. Now you have seen the consequences of your choices. The message continued as alien leaders watched human warships patrol their own solar systems. We are not here to conquer you. We are here to teach you respect. Any species that recognizes human sovereignty and agrees to treat us as equals will find us generous allies. Any species that continues to see us as inferior will discover that we are no longer hiding our true capabilities. On worlds throughout the galaxy, alien governments face the same choice: accept humanity as an equal partner, or face the most advanced military force in galactic history. Most chose wisely. But some species, blinded by pride and ancient prejudices, chose to fight to the end. The Void Hunters, a race that had conquered dozens of worlds, declared that they would never submit to inferior creatures. Their homeworld was surrounded by human ships within a week. When they refused to surrender, the humans demonstrated a weapon that simply erased their planet's atmosphere, leaving the surface airless and cold but the population alive to contemplate their choices. The message was clear. Humanity had the power to destroy any world they chose, but they preferred to show mercy to enemies who were willing to learn. As alien civilizations across the galaxy struggled to adapt to the new reality, one truth became clear to everyone. The age of alien dominance was over. Humanity had spent 30 years preparing for this moment, and they had Parar 6 months after. The Sol battle, the galaxy was a completely different place. The old Galactic Council building on Nexus Prime stood empty, its gleaming hall silent for the first time in 1,000 years. The species that had once ruled the galaxy now spent their time trying to understand how their universe had changed so completely. David Park stood in what used to be the Council's main assembly hall, looking at the empty seats where alien ambassadors had once decided humanity's fate. He was a former mining engineer who had spent 15 years pretending to be grateful for alien scraps while secretly overseeing the construction of humanity's most advanced shipyards. Now he was Earth's ambassador to what remained of the galactic government. It was a position he had never wanted, but Admiral Chen had insisted he was the right person for the job. You understand both sides, she had told him. You know what it feels like to be powerless, and you know what it took to become strong. The galaxy needs someone who can help them adapt to the new reality. Through the tall windows of the assembly hall, David could see human ships patrolling the space around Nexus Prime. They were there by invitation, not conquest. The surviving alien governments had asked for human protection after their own military forces proved unable to maintain order. The galaxy was experiencing the largest wave of revolutions in recorded history. Hundreds of species that had lived under Council rule were now demanding independence. Some transitions were peaceful, but others had erupted into civil wars that threatened to tear entire star systems apart. Humanity had become the galaxy's peacekeepers by default. Human fleets moved from system to system, separating warring factions and enforcing ceasefires. It was not a role they had sought, but it was one they accepted with typical human determination. "Ambassador Park," called a familiar voice behind him. David turned to see diplomat Zara of the Centauri Federation, one of the few alien species that had adapted quickly to the new order. Her people had been among the first to recognize human sovereignty and request alliance agreements. "The morning session is ready to begin," Zara said. "We have representatives from 47 species today." David nodded and walked toward the smaller conference room that now served as the galaxy's primary diplomatic center. The old council chamber had been designed to intimidate, with its massive size and raised platforms that put some species above others. The new meeting space was round with equal seating for all participants. As David entered the room, he saw the faces of alien diplomats from across the galaxy. Some looked hopeful, others fearful, and a few still showed the anger of species that could not accept their reduced status. But they were all here, which meant they were all learning to adapt. "Good morning, everyone, David said as he took his seat. "Let's begin with the trade reports." The galaxy's economy had been transformed as completely as its politics. For centuries, the Council had controlled all major trade routes and resources. Alien corporations had grown rich by exploiting weaker species and keeping advanced technology for themselves. Now, human factories throughout the galaxy were producing goods that made alien technology look primitive. Gravity drives that could move ships faster than any alien vessel. Medical devices that could cure diseases the aliens thought were incurable. Agricultural systems that could make any planet bloom with life. But the most revolutionary change was in how trade was conducted. Humans insisted on fair agreements with all species, regardless of their size or power. Small worlds that had been ignored by the Council found themselves with direct access to the most advanced technology in the galaxy. The Vegan colony cluster has exceeded their food production targets by 30%, reported Trade Coordinator Mills via hologram from Earth. They're now able to feed 12 neighboring systems that were experiencing shortages. David smiled. The Vegas had been one of the poorest species in the galaxy, forced to work in alien mines for barely enough resources to survive. Now they were becoming one of the galaxy's major food producers, using human agricultural technology to turn their desert worlds into gardens. "The Aquatic Alliance has completed their first shipyard using human construction techniques," Mills continued. "They'll be building their own defense fleets within the year." That was another major change. Instead of keeping superior technology for themselves, humans shared it freely with species that proved trustworthy. The goal was not to maintain human dominance, but to create a galaxy where every species could defend itself and prosper. Of course, not everyone was happy with the new system. "Ambassador Park," interrupted Representative Krell of the warrior caste, his voice filled with barely controlled rage. "My people demand to know when humans will return our conquered territories." David looked at the alien warrior calmly. The warrior caste had been one of the Council's most brutal enforcers, conquering weaker species and enslaving entire populations. When their fleet had attacked human colonies, they had discovered that humans could be just as ruthless when defending their people. "Representative Krell," David replied, "the territories in question were taken from species your people had conquered and enslaved. We returned them to their original inhabitants. If the warrior caste wants those worlds back, they can negotiate with the species that actually live there." Krell's face turned an angry shade of purple. "Those species are primitives. They cannot govern themselves. They seem to be doing fine with human assistance," David said. "Several of them have already established successful governments and are requesting membership in the new Galactic Alliance." The Galactic Alliance was humanity's answer to the old Council system. Instead of powerful species ruling over weaker ones, it was based on equal representation and mutual benefit. Any species could join as long as they agreed to basic principles of peaceful cooperation and respect for individual rights. Over 200 species had already joined. Some were former Council members seeking to rebuild their reputations. Others were newly independent worlds that had never had a voice in galactic affairs. All of them were learning to work together in ways that had never been possible under the old system. "The morning session has concluded," David announced after 3 hours of negotiations and planning. The afternoon session will focus on the hegemony situation. As the alien diplomats filed out of the conference room, David remained behind to review the intelligence reports that had arrived during the meeting. The news was not good. The hegemony was one of the few major powers that had refused to accept the new reality. After their crushing defeat at Sol, they had retreated to their core systems and begun building what they called a resistance fleet. Intelligence suggested they were planning a massive assault designed to destroy human colonies and restore alien dominance. Admiral Chen appeared on David's personal communicator, her image flickering slightly due to the quantum encryption protecting their conversation. "David," she said without preamble, "the hegemony has just launched their attack, 2,000 ships heading for New Geneva. They think they can destroy our most important colony and break human morale." David felt his stomach tighten. New Geneva was home to 12 million humans, including many families who had children born in space during humanity's secret expansion. It was one of humanity's most beautiful colonies, built around floating cities that orbited a gas giant's moons. "What's our response?" he asked. "Total," Admiral Chen replied simply. "The hegemony has made their choice. They've rejected every offer of peaceful coexistence. They've ignored every warning. They want to fight to the end, so we're going to give them what they want." David had known this moment would come. For all of humanity's efforts to build a peaceful galaxy, there would always be species that could only understand force. The hegemony had ruled through fear and violence for 2,000 years. They could not imagine any other way to exist. "How long?" David asked. "The battle will be over in 6 hours, Admiral Chen said. "The aftermath will take longer. We're not just going to defeat their fleet, David. We're going to demonstrate what happens when someone threatens human children. The galaxy needs to see that our patience has limits." 6 hours later, David watched the battle recordings with the rest of the galaxy. The hegemony had assembled, the largest fleet in their history, 2,000 warships carrying enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. They had surrounded New Geneva with overwhelming force, expecting to massacre the human colonists just as they had murdered the passengers of the New Horizon. But humanity had learned from every battle they had fought. The human defense fleet at New Geneva was smaller than the attacking force, but it was equipped with weapons that made the aliens' technology look like stone tools. The battle lasted 20 minutes. Human ships moved through space like dancers, avoiding enemy fire while delivering precise strikes that crippled alien vessels without destroying them. When it was over, the entire hegemony fleet had been captured intact. Every alien crew member was taken prisoner, along with all their technology and battle plans. But the real shock came afterward. Instead of executing the alien prisoners or enslaving the